InventOR is a statewide student pitch competition that challenges teams to turn ideas into real, investable concepts and develop them through mentorship, validation, and live presentation. Each year, the winning team is invited to present on stage at the Bend Venture Conference, placing student innovation directly in front of investors and the broader startup community. In Central Oregon, EDCO and PubTalk help support that same ecosystem by creating consistent opportunities for founders and innovators at all stages to connect, share ideas, and grow. Tonight's panel brings together InventOR alumni who have experienced this pathway and can reflect on how these pieces work together to build Oregon's entrepreneurial community. And we are absolutely thrilled to have you join us tonight for this exciting evening in partnership with InventOR alumni. And we kindly ask that everyone remain seated through the end of the program so that we can give our speakers the utmost, highest attention possible. And so it's my honor to introduce tonight's moderator, Juan Barraza, Executive Director of Latino Founders. With extensive experience as an entrepreneur and startup leader, Juan is dedicated to helping founders turn ideas into thriving businesses and creating opportunities within their communities. Please help me welcome Juan.
Thank you. It's a lovely introduction, eh? And the R's. Let's do it again. Those R's get you every time. Good evening. How are you? My name is Juan Barraza, Executive Director of Latino Founders. And over 10 years ago, I got the fortune to get into something. Okay, this is my mark. Sam, you didn't tell me this was my mark. Thank you. I walked into a room in Business Oregon. And unbeknownst to me what was happening, that was Rachel Jagona Brunette from the Lemelson Foundation, Angela Jackson. She was running the Portland State Business Accelerator and the Center for Entrepreneurship. Heather Stafford from Business Oregon, and Scott Slays from the PSU Foundation. And Rachel at that point already asked them, what if PSU has been running the Clean Tech Challenge for quite some time, and Rachel was asking at that time, what if we take that framework and apply it statewide, share with other universities and community colleges, and explore what university inventors and entrepreneurs can do? And the rest just took from there. I remember our first iteration, our goal that was to have 10 universities and community college participating after 3 years. By the second year, we had 20. And what I love about inventors and entrepreneurs at the university level, community college, they are like college athletes. They don't take a no for an answer. Imagine getting a call from Rock Community College one day, and they're asking you, I have this student that's ready to receive 2-cylinder tanks of hydrogen that you said you authorize. And I was like, sure, no problem, let him have it. And then to find out later on, he was using it to power a car inside Oregon Tech with hydrogen to prove they can run with a gas. Or hearing the students that they're looking at new ways to grow foods. And they have a new way to make it happen in urban environments. Or making our food grow faster and longer and last longer in a refrigerator. Or somebody that takes our plastic and make it back, convert it back to oil. So you're gonna hear a lot about what happened with those entrepreneurs now. But I want to acknowledge some folks that got started early on. I had my cheat sheet. I'm getting old and I'm getting forgetful. The PSBA team, the PSU Research and Graduate Studies team, Joe Genda, Travis Woodland, and the whole crew at RGS. The CE team now, Stacy and Blake, and the rest of the crew. Melissa Freeman. I remember meeting Melissa at the Starbucks Coffee, downtown Portland, when she was working on OCF. Martha Terrence. Where's Martha? My God, she's a cheerleader for everybody. Southern Oregon, you got to connect with Martha. I remember meeting her at Oregon Tech, and she's like, what we do next? InventOR is a proof that public-private partnerships works. Lamazon Foundation, OCF, and many other foundations provided the funding. Business Oregon came in second, and the private sector did the rest. Every university that said yes at the beginning, any community college that have hosted and sending entrepreneurs to the program, thank you for taking a chance. And EDCO, I remember back in the day when we asked EDCO, can we make time, a space for young university entrepreneurs to present at venture conference? And the answer was yes. And we love your partnership. And I'm excited to see that after many years you're partnering with the program. So thank you. And of course, Oregon State for housing us today. Thank you so much. This building is beautiful. Okay, with that, let me introduce you to our panelists. Skyler Pearson, co-founder of NexGarden. Come on over. Dagan K, founder of the Produce Mate. Ashlei Morgan, co-founder of the Reclaimers. Blake Turner, founder of Turner Automotive. And Mark Morrison, called Connect. So welcome. Yeah, Mike. Perfect. So these are rapid fire. Well, let's make it a trip down memory lane. I introduce you for how I know you, but let us know how you started and where you are now. And Dagan, you want to kick us off?
Sure, Juan. Hello, everybody. My name is Dagan. I got started at the University of Portland through the Entrepreneurship Scholar Program, where I first came up with the idea of Produce Mate, which I'll tell you a bit about in a minute. Then I competed in Invent Oregon in 2018. I won Invent Oregon and used that money to scale and launch Produce Mate to market. I'm still working on the same problem that made me fall in love with entrepreneurship in the first place, just in a slightly different form. Super happy to be here. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you. Skyler.
Hi, I'm Skyler Pearson. I started out with the Clean Tech Challenge through PSU and then went into Invent Oregon with my business, or I guess my project at that point, NexGarden. We're developing indoor growing systems for food, and I am still doing it now, just in a little bit of a different shape. I am a farmer now, operating out of Portland.
Thank you.
I'm Ashlei Morgan. I was on the Reclaimers. We made a machine that turned plastic back into oil. We decided not to move forward with that as a business, but it did kind of give me the passion for material science. And I went on to get my master's degree in material science, and I'm working at a materials testing lab right now.
I'm Blake Turner. I competed in Invent Oregon representing Road Community College back in 2018. I'm the guy that made Juan let everyone have hydrogen in the building.
Twice.
Twice. Yes, I competed twice, second time for PSU. That really opened my eyes to entrepreneurship, and now I am still working with Invent Oregon, now as the assistant director, helping the next generation of student entrepreneurs.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mark Morrison. I'm the founder of Cold Connect. We develop last mile vaccine delivery carriers for rural and remote communities. And I got my start last year at Invent Oregon. So the whole pipeline. And then was the follow-up what we're doing now?
Well, now, perfect timing. What was your experience since you are the most recent individual with InventOR? What was your experience so far?
What was my
experience with the program?
My experience with the program was basically it takes you from zero to hero almost. You know, you don't know what you're getting into when you start it, but it's a marathon, and everything that happened through the program just made Cold Connect possible, essentially, from the ground up.
Some of you started with like very ambitious projects, but little experience in the engineering. I'm looking at you, Skyler. Because you're an engineer, your background is not in science, and you have a very ambitious project. Could you tell us what was that journey for you?
Oh man, yeah, a lot of learning on the go, figuring out basically how to solve problems in a very short period of time. And I think kind of from that point, that definitely carried with me into what I'm doing now. No education, but I definitely would be like, I'm an engineer now with all the things that I know how to do. You teach yourself how to solve problems as an entrepreneur. The like wearing many hats is definitely true. So yeah, I think Invent Oregon kind of started that off for me, and it just kind of grew from there.
Could you describe your prototype, what it was then,
Yeah.
how you built it, and what is now no longer a prototype?
Sure, yeah. So what we were working on was an indoor hydroponic growing system. It's kind of this like closed container, and we built a prototype that was made out of wood first, and then we built another prototype that was as big as us sitting here. It was like an indoor growing cabinet. And then we got a grant to build like a first full scale prototype, which was meant to be like a micro facility. And then COVID hit, and we kind of pivoted to actually selling. And now I grow out of a 40-foot shipping container and sell at farmers markets. So kind of shift in what I was doing, but now I'm actually doing the growing. Yeah.
The green. Thank you. Ashley, you make magic happen. You make plastic disappear and become oil. You guys fully team engineers, all women. And what was the experience making the project work, and how you make a tough decision after the competition?
I have a video from the first time we actually made oil, and it was coming out in little drips because you have to gasify it and then condense it back down. And there's this video, and you just hear one of my partners, Jess, screaming in the background, just wow, yeah. So that moment, and that was like I think a week before Invent Oregon finals, and so it was really exciting that we made our project work. And then we went on to win. We won the whole thing. We won a couple other awards while we were there, and then we had to make a really tough decision of whether or not we wanted to actually pursue this as a business. And it was difficult. It was a really difficult decision. We had to sit down with ourselves and say, hey, we've only made it work once. We just graduated college with our engineering degrees. I don't think right now is the right time. We passed the project down to another senior project team. And so we thought, maybe if they can make more progress on the technical side of it, then we can come back in a year, start the business then. COVID happened. They didn't even get to finish their project, unfortunately. But yeah, it was a really tough decision because we had a lot of people that wanted to support us and give us money and go forward. But the technology we weren't ready yet.
Could you share your experience? You applied for a company in Portland, and you submitted your application, explain everything about you working on it, and then you emailed them after you guys won. What happened after that?
I got a job. I emailed them that we won, and then they offered me a job, and I worked as a design engineer for Leupold and Stevens for a couple of years before I went on to do my master's degree and then work in the materials testing lab. So doing Invent Oregon actually got me a job. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Dagan, you are pretty close aligned with what Skyler is doing. She's growing food. You're trying to preserve our food from going bad. Could you tell us more about Produce Made, and what was the journey with Produce Made until now?
Yeah, totally. Food waste is a massive problem. I'm sure some of you know, but just to give you the stats, 40% of all the food we grow and produce and raise is never eaten, and most of it ends up in a landfill. So that was sort of my true north, the problem that I fell in love with. So Produce Mate for me at the beginning was a hunch, a lot of prototyping. That the hypothesis initially was, hey, I think a lot of this fresh produce is going bad just because people are not getting around to eating it at home. So I started doing a lot of research about why produce goes bad and the mechanisms behind that. And so it turns out a lot of the surface spoilage that leads to fresh fruits and veggies ending up in the landfill is pretty avoidable if you can fight the bacteria that leads to that surface moldage. So Produce Mate is a antimicrobial kitchen mat. You store fruits and vegetables on top of it in the fridge or in a fruit bowl. The mat fights the bacteria that would lead to premature spoilage, and you get longer lasting fruits and veg.
Mark, so you're pretty fresh out of the competition. What have you learned so far that you're applying and you're looking back a year ago and you're like, I could do things differently?
I think the motto of the last year is hardware is hard. So it's just, yeah, there's a lot of things that you learn along the way. And also it's just, realizing how important it is coming out of InventOregon and going from the competition environment to starting a business is all the business formation skills you need and all the little, T's and I's you need to dot. And it's a whole field. That's why people major in college. But I would say a year ago to just really, really savor the simple times, maybe. Because it gets harder, but it gets more rewarding as well. So, yeah.
Blake, you take no for an answer. I have a picture you lifting the Corvair into the hallway of Oregon Tech. You were certain you were winning that year and didn't work out as planned. Tell us more.
So I got to talk to Dagan. So my first InventOregon, I brought the car in and I'm walking down to the registration desk. And of course, I brought a car into a building, so everybody's talking about it. And I definitely got it in my head, like, I got this thing in the bag. Like, I made a car run on hydrogen. I got this. Like, I'm going home with something. And so then when I find out a produce mat won, I was a little like hurt. I was like, I made a car run on hydrogen and I lost to a silicone mat. And so this is a story I tell all the time. And so Dagan, you're very much part of my backstory there. And so, of course, in the moment, I was like crushed, right? Because I just put a lot of work and I'm like, this is an invention competition, da, 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 da. And what I always tell people, and I'm glad I competed twice because I had the fortune, I transferred to Portland State. I ended up working with Dagan really closely as we were in the initial incubator, the Cube at the PSBA. And I got to know more about like the business side of things, and I understood why his project won. It's not that InventOregon is like it's just an invention competition. It's an everything competition. It's branding, it's business, and those skills go beyond InventOregon. Like when you're applying as an engineer, the reason they're like, "Oh, you want InventOregon? We want to hire you," is because it shows you're more than just an engineer. And so I took those lessons to heart, humbled myself a little bit. And then the next year I went in with, instead of having a team of engineers, I had a marketing person and a business person. We rounded out our project and we took home second place. And so that is kind of like an entire like self-contained story of what this program is all about. And a big part of what kind of made me into the person I am of like entrepreneurship is doing everything. And that's what I get to do every day in my job. And that's what I've discovered my passion is not just designing one thing, but everything around it.
If we look back and stay here with me, what you learned from the program and what was the most impactful thing you walk away that if you were to talk yourself from when you started the competition many years ago, what will you say that was the most important thing and what you learned that you will not repeat at that time that will accelerate your success?
Yeah, I have a very clear answer to this because for me, one of the core tenets of InventOregon was the idea that you should fall in love with a problem. And that's a complicated concept. What it means to me really is that a great business is addressing a really specific pain point, and a problem is a pain point. So I really I took that to heart, and I use that framework in everything I do today. It's really important to understand how people are impacted by the thing that you're trying to sell them, if that makes sense.
I think the biggest thing that kind of like I've taken away or I've learned is along with what Blake was saying, which is really that like it's about the whole picture. It's not just about the invention. It's about kind of putting all of the puzzle pieces together and seeing like the global view of what it is that you're doing. And I think InventOregon did a really good job of kind of making my brain function in that way, looking at things through that lens. And I think, yeah, kind of looking back, if I could tell myself something, it would just be to like hold space for that. It's complex and there's a lot of moving pieces to a business, and an invention is awesome and cool, but running and operating a business is so many more things than that. Yeah, and to just kind of like take that all as it comes.
Since I didn't move forward with the business, I think I took more from personal growth. I think it taught me a lot of having confidence in yourself, selling yourself, how to make an impact in 3 minutes. Also, even less than 3 minutes, we had a little gimmick. We would light our oil on fire during our pitch. Also, sometimes it's okay to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. That might not be the best advice, but we didn't ask first. We just did it. Um, so yeah, be confident, go for it, make an impression as quickly as you can. I also learned a lot about networking and how important networking is through Invent Oregon, because I still, Blake's a contact of mine, Juan. We're all connected on LinkedIn. It's really important because maybe in a year I'm looking for a job and one of you has an opening for me. So I really learned the importance of networking and just self-confidence.
You don't realize how dangerous Ashlei is at this moment. She's an engineer. She knows how to build things very complex, and she understands the value of how to align and present her ideas in an audience that might not understand all the engineering piece, but she knows how to grab your attention. So if anyone writes a check for Ashlei for her next venture, take note. Blake.
Yeah. So big one for me, like Juan said, don't take no for an answer. But the flip side of that is always say yes. Before I did Invent Oregon, I was just an engineering student. My goal was to get my degree, get a job, call it a day. And then I said yes to Invent Oregon. And then when Juan offered me a desk, even though I lost, I said yes to that. And I haven't left since. And so I've been taking on more responsibility, taking on more opportunities, and just people will offer you so many things. And if you just say yes and figure out how you're going to do it later, then that is an amazing part of entrepreneurship. And it was really like giving me experiences that I'll remember for the rest of my life. Like I'll remember when Juan offered to take me to Washington, D.C. Be like, hey, we want you to represent Invent Oregon. And my question was, why? Like, why me? And so getting out of that and just saying like, yeah, I'll go to Washington, D.C. Let's do this. First time on an airplane. Let's go. And those are the experiences that change your life, because otherwise it's something you might not have done.
I think for myself, it's the realization that an idea is not the end all be all. Like an idea and a cool trinket, you really need the whole vision, the whole package. When I first got to Invent Oregon, it was like, I don't want to do any of this other customer discovery stuff. I just want to build, man, And I call it like my Mr. Miyagi lessons, mostly from Stacy, is because it's like why am I doing this, And then it all clicked later. So I'm really appreciative of that, and so even if something doesn't make a ton of sense, just keep on going. It'll probably click.
So let's see, Stacy, wax on, wax off. Thank you. This is a perfect segue. So it's a perfect segue. And when we created Mentor, when we talked to Rachel, that was about mentorship. Seeing is believing. Being able to connect to individuals, to those with experience, and then you get the permission to do better things, crazier things. Is any mentor or judge during the competition that you can point back and say, having talked to this person, sent me in a different direction, they I totally wasn't expecting it?
I feel like part of my experience was twofold. It was like there were the people who told us to go in a certain direction, and my gut was like, no, it's this. And I feel like that taught me a really good lesson of listening to my gut, because there were a lot of things that were sound and kind of over time proved to be true. But at the same time, then you have mentors like Juan, and anything that he tells you to do, you should absolutely do. And that's like that's been the most valuable piece for me is you.
So I find that like a lot of advice is just a mix of optimism and nostalgia. And everyone's got advice. Everyone's got advice. But my joke out of the whole thing is that when you have an advisor, you should take their advice, because otherwise they wouldn't be your advisor. So it's not like don't take advice or choose your advice. It's more like choose your advisors very carefully and then listen to what they have to say.
Anybody else?
You were always really excited, and so that made us excited.
Still true today.
It's Juan.
Yeah. I mean, I'll double down on that. There's so many adventures that I've gone on with Juan, just of like, hey, hey Blake, do you know how to use a laser cutter? I did once. We're going to Bend. You're going to read the manual and teach people how to use it. And it was great. So there's just a lot of adventures of, whether it's Juan or anybody else, just let him take you for a ride and see where you end up.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll give you 20. They promised everybody. You hear a lot about the economy right now is in everybody's mind, right? Everybody, statewide, citywide, we're talking about how we reignite our economy. As a new study that was alluded earlier about the Prosperity Council, with a lot of advice, you were to share what makes the difference, will make the difference for you now or in the future, what would you ask us to focus on?
I'll go ahead and say a little thing. Of course, entrepreneurship, I think, is the future of a lot of businesses, of people doing their own thing. I see a lot of focus and a lot of resources aimed at like finding the next unicorn, right? What's the next Apple? What's the next SpaceX? And I think really the future of businesses and entrepreneurship are lifestyle businesses. What I like about our student entrepreneurs is they come with things they care about. And that's what we all did. All of us started with a project that we cared about and that we wanted to do. And so when someone comes in and is like, what's your exit strategy? How are you going to do this and that? We're like, oh, no, we just want to like have a business and have a life. And I think that is really how you build a robust economy, is rather than a bunch of businesses that people are going to sell and go through a bunch of hands all to make money for their shareholder. Instead, people who are passionate about their problem are willing to work for not as much money as they would make in the private sector, but doing their own startup and doing their own thing is how we're going to build like a robust baseline of the economy of the future, in my opinion.
Something I always like to say about kind of coming into the entrepreneurial community is that it's a real like rising tide lifts all boats kind of place. Everyone in the entrepreneurial community instinctively knows that true wealth is built. It's not taken or given. So everyone's always willing to help build, and so it's just that spirit of being able to build something new, and it's not a triage where you're taking from something. So, and I think that, like I said, with like that's the future. Is just more building, more doing.
I think something that I think Oregon is good at, but also is kind of a place that can always grow and improve, is this kind of intersection between what it means to be like an entrepreneur and like a startup sense, and you've got really big vision, and then what it means to just start a small business. Like my path kind of took me through, like hardware development, software development, and fundraising, and then kind of shifting into I'm trying to operate a regular old small business, and the resources for those two things are really different. And I think that I think Oregon does a really good job of kind of bridging that gap and offering kind of both sides of that. And kind of always can continue to grow, because those two areas can always help each other grow as well.
Okay, perfect. Dagan is like, that's what I wanted to say. We have a lot of support organizations in the room, EDCO, OEN, Latino Founders, others. What advice you give us to connect with young entrepreneurs coming out of university that we have an idea but not a lot of experience? What kind of programs or support would you like to see? Because you were there at some point and now you have gained some experience, but maybe could you use a little bit more help at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, one thing I notice a lot is when you're a student entrepreneur and you're coming up into things, sometimes you don't feel like you belong. And that's a common thing that people say, like, oh, yeah, we build belonging. But like, what that means is these people, and especially, in my case, I'm sure a lot of others, you come in with like not really wanting to put yourself out there, not really wanting to impede, and not feeling like you fully belong in this space. And so, anybody who wants to help young entrepreneurs, people doing this for the first time, it takes a little work to get these people out of their shells. Like, I'm a mentor now. I work with students, and there are definitely some times where I'm like, all right, let's get going. Let's get those ideas flowing. You're a genius. Let's go. And so like these, coming out into this, there are some folks that are like total extroverts and they are ready to run into a room and own it. And other people will hide in the corner. And so it's about taking those people that see themselves hiding in the corner and showing them that they can really go out there. They deserve to network. They deserve to be in the room, and helping them achieve that.
I have to second that. Like, definitely, it makes me think of Hugh, the partner that I worked with on my project, who definitely didn't come out of his shell until like 3 years ago, and, and we went through Invent Oregon 10 years ago. Um, but yeah, I feel like if there was like Toastmasters for students, do you guys know what that is? Just like getting out there and feeling confident, learning how to connect with people. I definitely also felt the like sort of imposter syndrome, like in a room full of wealthy and intelligent advisors. And I was like, I don't belong here. I feel like a child. And it took a long time to feel confident in that space, even though like I was quite extroverted. I feel like, yeah, anything that can kind of bring together um, more practice for that, just kind of practice makes perfect of getting people comfortable with how to sit up in front of a crowd and talk into a microphone.
The Klamath Small Business Development Center helped us out a lot. They came and gave presentations, but we were also competitors. I don't know if that is open to everybody or not, but I would say the same thing. I think we did 24 presentations my senior year, and by the 24th, we're owning it. That's our presentation. We know exactly what we're talking about. Also, our first pitch, I think, was 10 minutes. We got it down to 3. So getting that short pitch earlier in the process, um, yeah, and just knowing where to find the resources.
The other thing that I would add is we live in such an interesting time in terms of new tools. I think in a lot of ways it's easier now than ever to get some minimum viable product or to start a business. So I think like students have their finger on the pulse already with what's out there and what's going on. One way that the broader entrepreneurial community could help is making sure that those tools are accessible, are easy to pick up. And then nobody mentioned this, but money helps for sure. Invent Oregon's initial grant is how I bought the mold to make Produce Mate in the first place. You need some form of capital to make these inventions happen. And so, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thanks to the sponsors.
Yeah, thank you to the sponsors.
Thanks to the sponsors, right? Absolutely. Tomorrow is InventOR 10-year, and there's a lot of participants in the room. What advice you will give to them the night before InventOR?
You're probably nervous and excited, and you've been prepping for this for ages. If I could say anything, I would say I would encourage you to celebrate the effort and not focus on the outcome so much. You have an amazing group of people around you, and you've built a network just by a fact of having gone through Invent Oregon. No matter the outcome tomorrow, although I wish you the best of luck, I urge you to feel proud and to take that confidence forward in whatever you do next. And hopefully that's continuing to run your business.
I think the biggest advice that I kind of would offer to the students is you kind of remembering that whether for the business or for just the rest of your life, like this is still very much the beginning. This is the starting line, not the finish line. And also, like, get out there and just talk to people. Make friends with the judges, with the mentors, with your competitors, you know, your sworn enemies. Just talk to people, because that's definitely the value of being here, is making those connections, and those will stay with you for a very long time. I would not be surprised if Dagan hit me up and was like, "Hey, I've got a job for you," like in 10 years. That would not be absurd. And we don't like keep in contact, you know, but the connections that you make while you're here are so important. So get out there, make friends, talk to people. It takes a little bit of like the pressure off of your pitch also. You know, it's a big day full of a lot of opportunities. You just won't really know what they are until, you know, like hindsight's 2020. So enjoy the day.
The day does go by really fast. Even though it's a long day, it goes by really fast. So just try to enjoy it where you can. If you're able to walk around and see the other teams' booths or pitches, I would recommend that. Also, just taking pictures with your group. You know, at the end of the day, everyone's so rushed packing up that you kind of lose the excitement at the end there. Um, and the whole point is we want to start a business. You want to bring this to business, but at the end of the day, you have to look at yourself. And if that's not within your bandwidth, it's okay if you don't move forward with that, because I am still doing great. And I might loop back around to that project. I've got a whole note in my phone of invention ideas. Like it wasn't the end for me.
And I definitely want to second kind of what they've said, is that what you remember and what you take away from this is not whether you won first, second, or visionary. It's about the people you meet along the way, the experiences you gain, and the opportunities that you'll be offered that you don't know are going to have an impact yet. Like when I look back at my first event, Oregon, it was Juan offering me a space at the PSBA was the biggest opportunity. And at the time, I was like, okay, cool. Like, sure, buddy, I'll take you up on that. I did change my life, but at the moment, it just seemed like another opportunity that I was just bummed that I had to get my car out of the building. And so it's these little things of the people you meet, like, you know, we don't connect with each other. Ashlei and I connected after that first Invent Oregon. I haven't talked to her until like to invite her to this, but she came. Like, it's those connections that really do last a long time, both with the professionals and the cohort. Like, you're all going through this together, and whether, you know, you keep in touch, become best friends, or, you know, years down the line, you end up reconnecting. Like, that's what you're going to carry with you.
I would like to add, you were actually going to give me a tour of PSU, because I was thinking about going to PSU for my master's, and then I think COVID happened. But networking really does, you know, play into it.
Yeah,
So close.
and to third everything everyone was saying, yeah, write it all down. Everyone you meet, how you know them, what they're involved in. Everyone that you will meet, you have met in the process, your mentors, and everyone you're going to meet tomorrow, all the judges, they're going to become your biggest advocates and sponsors as you make your way through the entrepreneurial system. And just know that everybody here today and tomorrow, they're here because they support early stage entrepreneurship and they want to see you succeed. So let's keep that in mind.
When InventOR got started, we thought we were going to have, right off the bat, a lot of entrepreneurs creating businesses. Some of them did. Some of them went to the careers. And the benchmark now, 10 years, allows us to look back. And lessons learned from that is we got to give time for entrepreneurs and innovators to mature and get to the space where they can create something. Many of the alumni from Entrepreneur, they're working in big companies, working in rocket science, building new concepts. And the reality is we've been told the innovation comes from the isolated genius, but it comes from connected communities. So for all our university staff that support this program today, stand up. Everybody from university, community college, stand up. Thank you. Thank you, because it takes a lot of work to get the student that wants to fly to the moon and you don't want to clip their wings, and you say, sure, let's do it. But also it's about intentionality. I'm going to remind you of the three other people in the room that afternoon at Business Oregon. Rachel Jagoda Brunette, Angela Jackson, Scott Schlaze, Heather Stafford. They were very intentional about what we're doing. And Rachel, where are you hiding? Come on over. Come on over. It was because Rachel got the idea and dared to say, what if? So thank you for being intentional.
Thank you. I'll speak.
You speak to them? Okay. With that, stay here. We're going to take a picture. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Dagan, Skyler, Ashlei, Blake, Mark, thank you for being who you are and continue innovating and being entrepreneurial. Thank you. Can we take a quick picture?